Welcome, welcome, welcome. Part of our continuing series, we had a global summit a while back where we reached out to independence movements around the world and asked them to come and speak about their independence movements, the struggles they face, and hopefully any lessons that we could be learning from them. Real quick, this is the intro video. So that was part of the introduction of all the movements we try to reach out to. With us today is, I'm going to try this, Mthwakazi Moyo. Mr. Moyo is the president of the Mthwakazi Republican Party. A little bit about him. He's the president of the Mthwakazi Republican Party. There he is. It's a group that wants to become independent from part of what's called Zimbabwe. In fact, they had their own identity, their own nation going far, far before Zimbabwe was ever created. But a group called the British decided, nah, we're going to force you to work with these other people and cause all sorts of conflict. There's another map of the area. We're talking about the area in yellow. Here's another map showing you where the homeland would be as part of the made-up country of Zimbabwe and where it is roughly on the world. And today we're talking to this man. He's a relatively young man, but he's been there fighting the struggle for a while. Sir, could you introduce yourself? Who are you? What does it mean to be president? What is the Republican front for the Mthwakazi movement? What is that all about, sir? And if you were going to have 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and you and I were in an elevator, and you had just a few minutes to tell me about what's going on, and then I'm going to go off to the UN. So I'm a really important person. What would you tell me in just a few minutes about who you are, what's going on, and why I should care?
Thank you so much, my dear brother Marcus, for affording me with this opportunity. As I've already said, my name is Mthwakazi Moyo, the president of Mthwakazi Republic Party. This is a political party operating in the Western Party of the modern-day Zimbabwe, commonly known as Matabeleland. We launched this political party on the 11th of January 2014 in Bulawayo, the second capital city in the modern-day Zimbabwe. The party was launched to fight for the self-determination agenda, that is to separate with Zimbabwe after our colonization that took place firstly on the 4th of November 1893 when the British imperialists invaded us. After a fierce battle that took place, in this battle, more than 6,000 warriors of our last king, Lobengula, perished fighting the British imperialists who were being accompanied by the 652 Shona batsmen from the other side, which is Mashonaland. Mashonaland had been already conquered in 1890 without resistance by the British imperialists. So ours was a fierce battle which occurred during that time around November 1893, where we've got some recorded battles. As I've already mentioned, the Battle of Kadate, which claimed the lives of more than 6,000 warriors of King Lobengula at that time. And then on 12 September 1923, without our consent, a British South Africa company joined us, the people of Matabeleland and the people of Mashonaland, without our consent, to become what they called Southern Rhodesia. You remember that during the scramble of Africa, particularly in Matabeleland, Cecil John Rhodes is the one who conquered the black people in that place. Hence Zimbabwe, which is now Zimbabwe, was then named Rhodesia. At that time of the amalgamation of Mashonaland and Matabeleland, were called Southern Rhodesia on 12 September 1923. It was after a referendum which took place between only by the whites at that time, the invaders, around December 1922, and the amalgamation was then infected in place on 12 September 1923.
I'm on mute. So only whites were able to vote in the December 1922 election?
Yes, only the whites voted. The blacks were not allowed to vote then.
Okay. So the British South Africa Company comes in and says, hey, we're going to join these two ethnic groups who've never been one country into a country. And we're not really going to ask them for their permission, certainly not your group that you're with. And only white people can vote on this. And the white people voted for your ethnic group and another ethnic group to form a larger nation against your will. They didn't even ask your people to vote. Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Let's go to a little background here. Mthwakazi is a term associated with political movement in Zimbabwe, particularly in the Matabele land region, advocating for rights for the I'm trying to say this, Ndebele. How do you say that? Ndebele people?
Yes, Ndebele people. Apparently,
Okay.
Ndebele is a nation or was a nation at that time.
So the Ndebele people were the original ethnic group there, but now they're the second largest ethnic group in Zimbabwe, and they faced periods of political and social marginalization, particularly after the country's independence. So after Zimbabwe was formed, the Ndebele people, who formed the Mthwakazi movement, started being treated not very well by the larger ethnic group of, I think it's called the Shona. The Shona is the larger ethnic group. So they had the Mthwakazi Liberation Front, its political party, emerged in 2011, asking for independence to protect the Ndebele people. They claim that they are voices of concerns about lack of representation, limited access to resources, perceived bias against the Ndebele and government institutions, and other things, and that the major party, the ruling ZANU PF party, favors the other Shona ethnic groups. So here's the map, here's the Mthwakazi, and then in the northern part of Zimbabwe is the Shona ethnic group, and they basically have preference and run the government, and they kind of discriminate against the Ndebele people. Is that roughly a fair description?
Yes, my brother Marcus, yes, Mthwakazi Republic Party is what exactly we are doing as the party.
Some of the things that the Ndebele people face, they say that discrimination exists based upon ethnicity and political affiliation. Predominantly in Ndebele, Matabele band region has historically been a stronghold of opposition parties. There are reports of security forces from the government targeting the area of the Ndebele people with disproportionate force and surveillance. There's also claims of economic discrimination against the Ndebele people in Matabele region, a lack of representation in civil service, and some saying that really the government only hires ethnic Shona-speaking people. And then there was the Gukurahindi massacres. We'll get to that in a second. Is it true that the government of Zimbabwe discriminates against your ethnic group and favors the Shona ethnic group? Is that what's going on here? From what I could read, it seems like that's largely is that they're the larger ethnic group and they get all the good government jobs and all the good government money, and your region gets a lot of less investment, and your group doesn't get to be part of the government and isn't treated fairly. And then sometimes they'll send security forces into region just to terrorize the people there. Is that what's going on?
It is what is happening, Mr. Marcus and the viewers. What is happening in Zimbabwe against the people of the Ndebele nation, that is the people of Matabele, is very horrible. They've got a document which they created on the 19th of May, 1979 in London, called the 1979 Shona Grand Plan. This is the document that they created so that they will, ruthlessly deal with the Ndebele people using it. Not only that they created this document for or against the Ndebele people alone, even against the white people in Zimbabwe. It's unfortunate that at that time, when they created this document, Britain assisted them. Like I said, that this document was created in 1979 or 19 May by the likes of the former finance of Zimbabwe, Dr. Simbamagon. By then, Zimbabwe was not yet independent, and the likes of Herbert Usheokunze, Nathan Shamyarira, and others. They then went on to reproduce this document. This time around, it was to be called the 14-page review document, which speak evil about the people of Matabeleland and the white people in Zimbabwe, where they called the Ndebele people and the white people settlers in Zimbabwe who do not belong in Zimbabwe. In this document, this is where they outline a lot of issues that they implement against the Ndebele people, where you find that, like you have already said, in most of the government